Everyone at the party froze. My father's voice cut through the music, and every conversation died instantly. "You have 48 hours to leave," he repeated, loud enough for the whole room to hear. My hands went cold and my heart felt like it stopped. I'd expected a bad evening, the usual passive-aggressive comments, the quiet comparisons to my sister, but not this. Not public humiliation. My mother crossed her arms, avoiding my eyes like I was some stranger. "You've overstayed your welcome. We've done enough for you," she said with a fake smile. My uncle coughed awkwardly. My cousins pretended to check their phones, and my sister whispered something to her fiancé before both of them looked away. For a moment I couldn't move. My throat burned, but I refused to cry in front of them. I managed a shaky smile. "You know what? Fine. I'll go." I turned to grab my bag from the chair, every step feeling heavier. That's when my aunt, the quiet one who rarely spoke, reached out and stopped me. "You don't have to take this," she said softly. Her voice broke something in me. I nodded, thanked her, and walked out. The night air hit my face, cold and freeing at the same time. I had nothing, no plan, no idea where I'd go, but for the first time in years I felt something stronger than fear. Felt done. That night I booked a cheap motel room, opened my laptop, and started applying for jobs in another city. Within a week I got one. Within a month, I had a small apartment and peace that my parents' house never gave me. Months later, when my cousin called to tell me my parents wanted to talk, I just smiled. I had already learned what they never could. That home isn't where you're allowed to stay. It's where you're finally free to breathe. 2 days before that party, my mom had already been acting strange. Overly sweet, making sure I'd dress nicely and behave myself. I thought maybe she was trying to mend things between us. I couldn't have been more wrong. The house was full that night. Laughter, music, my dad's business friends clinking glasses. I helped set the table, carried trays, smiled at guests who barely remembered my name. It was the same routine. Me doing the work, my sister taking the credit, my parents pretending I didn't exist. Dinner started fine until my dad, already a few drinks in, started talking about how proud he was of my sister's new job. My mom chimed in saying, "See? That's what happens when you listen to your parents." Then she turned to me, her smile sharp as glass. Some people in this house could learn from her example. The table went quiet. I tried to laugh it off, but my dad leaned forward. "You've been living under our roof for how long now? You think life's going to wait for you to figure it out?" My stomach dropped. I wanted to disappear, but he wasn't done. "Maybe it's time we helped you move on," he said, exchanging a look with my mom. "You can take the guest room for 2 more nights, or you can start packing tonight." Everyone stared at me, waiting for my reaction. My sister hid a smirk behind her wine glass. My uncle looked uncomfortable but said nothing. I could feel my pulse in my throat, but I just said, "Okay. Okay." My mom frowned, expecting me to beg or argue. "You don't have anything to say?" "Yeah," I said, forcing my voice steady. "Thank you for finally saying it out loud." Then I stood, took my plate, and walked to the kitchen. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. After that, I didn't go back to the table. I packed quietly while the party went on downstairs. I could hear my parents laughing like nothing had happened, their voices mixing with the music. It hurt, but somewhere between folding my clothes and zipping my bag, something inside me started to change. I realized they weren't just kicking me out, they were freeing me. They just didn't know it yet. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I could still hear their voices echoing. The laughter, the dismissive tone, the way my father said, "You can start packing tonight," like he was talking about throwing out old furniture. By morning, I'd already packed everything I owned. 2 suitcases, 1 backpack, and a small box of memories I couldn't let go of. Photos, a few letters, an old guitar pick my grandpa gave me before he passed. He was the only one in the family who ever believed in me. When I came downstairs, the house was quiet. My mom sat at the kitchen counter scrolling through her phone, sipping coffee like nothing happened. She didn't even look up until she noticed the bags beside me. "Oh, you're actually leaving?" she asked, her voice flat. "You told me to." "I didn't mean it like that." "Don't be dramatic," she said, waving her hand. But I could tell she didn't mean that either. She liked having control, seeing me stay small under her words. So I didn't give her that satisfaction anymore. My dad came in a minute later, adjusting his tie. "You're really going through with this?" "Yeah," I said. "You said 48 hours. I figured I'd make it easier for you." He looked at me for a moment, maybe expecting a meltdown or some emotional apology. Instead, I just picked up my bag and headed for the door. As I walked out, my mom said quietly, "Don't come back asking for help." I stopped, turned, and looked her in the eye. "Don't worry. I won't." It took everything in me not to cry until I was far enough away. The first night, I stayed in a cheap motel on the edge of town. The bed creaked, the walls were thin, but the silence felt cleaner than anything I'd heard in years. No shouting. No guilt. Just peace. For the first time, I had no one telling me who I should be. It was terrifying but also freeing. Over the next few weeks, I worked 2 part-time jobs. One at a cafe in the mornings and one at a local tech repair shop in the evenings. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave me something I hadn't had in years: independence. I saved every rupee, barely ate out, and spent my nights learning coding online through free tutorials. One afternoon, while fixing a customer's laptop, I met a man named Armin. He worked for a small startup and noticed how quickly I debugged a problem. He asked if I'd ever thought about working in tech full-time. I told him it was a dream, but I didn't have a degree or connections. He smiled and said, "Sometimes skill is louder than a diploma." He offered me a junior position to test my abilities for a month. I said yes without hesitation. The work was tough, but I threw myself into it. I stayed late, learned fast, and slowly earned their trust. After 6 months I was promoted, and for the first time I could afford my own small apartment. I bought a second-hand car, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Then one evening I posted a picture of myself standing in front of that apartment. The caption read, "Finally home." Few hours later my mom called. Her voice was sugar-sweet, the kind she used when she wanted something. "We saw your photo. You've done well for yourself." "Thanks," I said flatly. She hesitated. "Your father and I were talking. Maybe you should come for dinner sometime." I almost laughed. The same people who threw me out were now pretending nothing happened. "Maybe," I said. "But I think I'll pass." After the call, I just sat there for a while, smiling. I didn't need their approval anymore. Their rejection had been the best thing that ever happened to me. They gave me 48 hours to leave, and in that time I found the rest of my life waiting for me outside their door.